Hi. Right now we're going to do a little mini lesson, and it's about how oceans affect the temperatures and the climate of certain areas. Okay? Now there's a few things you need to know before we start. Firstly, you need to know that water holds heat much better than land does. Okay? So if you have a lake and during the day it's getting warm, and at night it gets cool, and during the day it gets warm again, that water temperature, when it gets cold at night, it's going to get a bit cooler, but the lake water temperature is not going to change that much. On land though, the dirt, the land, when it gets cold at night, it gets cold very quickly. When it gets warm during the day, the sun warms up the land very quickly. Okay, so you need to see that water sort of keeps a more constant temperature. Land changes temperature very quickly. Okay? Second thing you need to know is that there are certain winds that go over the ocean and carry, as they go over the ocean, they get warmed or cooled sort of to get close to the ocean temperature. Right? You're talking about humongous oceans. So as air travels over it, if the water's warm, it's going to warm the air a bit. If the water's cooler than the air, it's going to cool it down a bit. Okay, so if you have that clear in your head, let's look at a certain situation. And I have a question for you. And the question is, if I look at a map and I look at Montreal, Montreal is right around here, and I look at Paris, which is right around there, they are at the same latitude. Okay? So that means they get about the same amount of sunlight. Places at the equator get a lot of sunlight. The North Pole gets very little. Both Montreal and Paris are at about the same latitude. So they get the same amount of sunlight. So they should have approximately the same climate, you would think, but they don't. It turns out in summer, Montreal gets quite warm, in the 20s on average. And in winter, Montreal gets quite cold, -9 on average. However, if you look at those temperatures, summer and winter for Paris, in Paris it gets up to about 18 degrees on average, and in winter it's +5. So during their year, the temperature changes about this much in Paris. However, in Montreal, we have this huge spread of temperature from summer to winter. Why would the temperature change so much in Montreal and so little in Paris? So that's my question. Okay, to figure this out, we have to look at the locations of each city. If you look at Montreal, Montreal is in Canada. We have the Rocky Mountains on the left. These things block a lot of the wind coming from the Pacific. So we're not getting a lot of ocean wind, especially since the wind currents here, okay, this one's called the Gulf Stream, tend to go towards Paris. So we're getting most of our air from the land. That land, as I mentioned before, in summer heats up very quickly, and in winter cools down very quickly, which means in summer we have hot temperatures, and in winter we have low cold temperatures. In Paris though, it should be hot in summer. However, the water in the ocean always kind of keeps a medium temperature. So as the wind goes over in winter, the air is moving over warm water, and it's warming up, and the air goes and shares that medium temperature to Paris. So in winter in Paris, on average, it's about +5. It doesn't really freeze much there. In summer, Paris should get very hot, but again, the medium temperature ocean water cools down the air of the air going over it and brings cooler air to Paris. So in summer, Paris has relatively cool, comfortable temperatures, which explains why we need so many winter clothes in winter, and they don't. They just need rain jackets. Hi, I nearly forgot to do a recap. So here's your recap. Water holds heat much better than land does. Therefore, it stays at the same temperature much better. Land changes temperature much more quickly if it gets hot or cold outside. If you look at how that affects cities or locations that are in the middle of land and get their winds from land, like Montreal gets it from Canada, their temperatures are going to change a lot more between summer and winter than areas such as Paris that get the winds of the Gulf Stream going over the ocean, and that makes more medium their temperatures from summer to winter. Okay, so places that get ocean winds tend to have more mild temperatures. Places that don't get winds from the ocean tend to have much hotter and much colder temperatures, much more varied temperatures. So there's your recap.